Let me turn that on then. Okay, the recording is on. So yeah, let's take a look at, yes, I'm glad that you responded with answers to the training. I'm sorry that your arm's broken and typing is hard. That's,
Yeah, I can't. It's hard.
yeah, for sure. Um, if you can voice text from your phone, that might make it easier to do
Mhm.
some of the
Yeah,
things.
I should have done that.
Um, but I'm curious, you asked to set up this time a while ago. It's taken us a while to connect. What would be most useful to you?
Well, I think, going over these answers and talking about them, and these were the things that you brought up, so I'd like to discuss them with you.
Okay, that sounds great. So I'm going to go back and click over to those. So in screening, I wanted to know more about what you would do. I think you had said in your answer, I don't have the first original answer up here, but you go out for coffee. So what would you do? And you would ask what client expectations are. Why do they want a Cuddlist? Do they have any medical or psychological problems I should know about? I would also go over the rules and make sure they know this is a non-sexual event. Okay, great. That lets me know better what you would do. How do you feel about that as screening? Does that feel like it would be comfortable for you?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to hear anything you might add to it, that you think I should do.
Great. I talk with people on the phone. I find that my life is pretty busy and I don't want to schedule a time to meet with people that may become clients face to face. I trust that I'll pick up on what's going on, whether I want to meet with them or not over the phone. Some cuddlists absolutely do meet with their people ahead of time. Some do a Skype or a Zoom thing. Some meet in person. Some, like me, just talk on the phone. I think there might be some who just text or email, right? So we all find our comfort levels and what's going to work with our schedules.
Right.
And the things I make sure to go over are absolutely to ask them, will you tell me more about why you want to cuddle and what you're hoping to get out of it? And I make sure to go over, this is a non-sexual session. That means we both, and I say what that means because I've had some clients agree, oh yeah, this is non-sexual. One in particular assured me repeatedly he got that it was non-sexual. He'd had cuddles before, and then when he came, he really wanted to masturbate during the session.
Hmm.
And that was pretty awkward. And he's like, well, I don't want you to touch me. I'll just touch myself. And I was like, yeah, no, that still doesn't get in the, that doesn't have the spirit of non-sexual session for me. So I now say to people, this is a non-sexual session. That means I'm keeping my clothes on, you're keeping your clothes on. We're not making out, we're not having sex. We're not getting each other off. I'm not getting myself off. You're not getting yourself off. Like I really try to cover the bases and make it very
Yeah,
plain
I
language.
think that's good suggestion to really spell it out.
Yes, because sexual, in quotes here, the air quotes on sexual, people have really, like some people are like, well, if my penis is not in your vagina, it's not sexual. I was like, yeah,
Said,
there's a whole lot that's sexual to me well before that.
you know?
And then I say on the other, the flip side of the same coin is that arousal happens, and that's a function of the nervous system, right? It half the time it happens, we don't even know why, and sometimes it doesn't happen when we think it should. So arousal is not something we have a lot of control over. I might get turned on, you might get turned on. No shame, no blame. What we're agreeing to is to not try to create arousal or do anything with it if it arises. You can enjoy it, we can talk about it, we can shift to a position that's less arousing, but
Right.
basically just letting them know, hey, if you get an erection, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
But they like that too, because that's the people that aren't looking for a sexual encounter are often worried that they're going to get turned on and they're going to embarrass themselves or offend you. So I like to just say, you're not going to offend me, you're not going to embarrass me, but we're not going to stop and do anything about it. Although I do say, if the person seems at all open to it or if it's in my mind, I do say, um, but if you do get turned on, we can talk about it,
Right.
because this is a safe place to notice what's going on in your body. And most men have never had the experience of talking about their arousal or their desire while not having any performance anxiety or, knowing that they're going to have to do anything with it. You could just talk about what you're feeling and noticing. So depending on whether you're open to that or not, I feel like I could do that with my clients without making it a sexual thing.
And let me ask you this. Do you have them sign a paper of any kind? No.
I don't. I've totally considered it. I think it might be a good idea. Um, I particularly, like, I have an agreement that I used with my coaching clients, and I think I should really revamp it and use it with cuddling, and I just haven't yet.
Hmm. And you would just lay out the rules of cuddling in that agreement?
I would focus more on, hey, this could be amazingly transformative, and it's not therapy. If you need a therapist, you should go find one. I'm not trying to be a substitute for a healthcare professional. It'd be more that standpoint
Okay.
that
Okay.
I would do rather than, I would also put in, we agree that this is a non-sexual session and we agree not to do anything we're uncomfortable with.
Has anything ever happened where someone tried to get sexual with you and you couldn't stop them?
No, no. My sessions have felt really safe. I mean, there's that one guy who was like, well, can I just get off while you're here? And we compromised on, he wanted to watch me do some yoga poses. And then I went to the bathroom and he jerked off and then left. It was awkward. I wouldn't do it again. But for me in that moment, it was okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Well,
so that's as bad as it's gotten, right? And then I had another client who thought it would be really fun to see if he could turn me on, and we I went with his touch as much as it was comfortable for me, and when it felt too erotic, I said stop.
uh-huh.
But that's also not my ideal, and he hasn't come back since that
Well,
was
the
clear that
idea
that's what he
of
was
the
doing.
cuddlist session is not to turn the cuddlist on.
Right. He liked to push boundaries. He liked to see how far he could get. He liked to talk. I mean, that was his shtick with women anyway. And so if he had said he wanted to come back, I would have been like, hey, this is a great place to learn how to get out of that habit, because
Mhm.
he came to me because he wasn't happy with his relationship habits anyway. I was like, oh, look, here they are playing out in our session. But it was a
Uh-huh.
while ago and I wasn't as clear on my boundaries then.
Okay. So we can go on to the next one, I guess, unless you have any
Sure.
other.
No. So yes, good. You got the difference between the objective and the subjective boundaries right now, right? That the objective ones are, hey, this is just a hard boundary all the time, doesn't matter who you are. And the subjective are probably not, but we'll see. So no touching with rough hands. I'm curious what you're going to do about that. Generally, my clients have had pretty nice hands. Lots of people do computer work these days, but I'm curious what you would do if somebody showed up with rough hands or how you would screen for that.
Yeah, because I was at a cuddle party with someone once who had very rough hands and he wanted to touch me. And I just told him no. But a cuddlist is different. So I would maybe ask if he'd use some hand cream or, touch me on top of my clothing rather than on my skin. Something
Would you
like that.
mention that in your screening session?
Did I mention that?
Would you, is what I'm asking.
Oh, well, I think I might want to feel his hands.
hmm Fair enough, right? And then you can, because you're meeting face to face. On the objective boundaries, the good hygiene is part of the code of conduct. So I'd like to see you include another boundary that's not covered in the code of conduct.
The objective boundaries,
hmm
you asking for permission, is that a boundary?
Um,
Like, can I touch your arm? Can we cuddle this way or something like that?
no, that's just part of your communication on consent. So another objective boundary, like a hard thing that you're a no to, but that's not covered in the code of conduct. So maybe that would
Well,
be
no touching my breasts.
right. That's a good one because that's not explicitly covered in the code of conduct, right? No
Mhm.
hand to genital, but breasts are more of a gray area for people. Yep,
Mhm. Yeah,
great.
and I did have a guy at a cuddle party once who did want to touch my breasts, and I repeatedly told him no, and he wouldn't stop, and I had to get the cuddle caddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I think they asked him to leave
yeah,
because,
that's a good idea, right? That's sometimes that happens, and I'm glad that you stuck with your boundaries and said no.
yeah.
Great. I feel good about that. Any other questions you have?
No, I think, just to really spell it out for them so they're clear.
Yeah. And then if you Um, hmm, interesting. Sorry, random Zoom prompts are coming up. So if you are very clear with your potential clients and then with your clients, it also is easy then to invite them to be very clear. How do you really like to be touched? What are your boundaries?
Yes.
It's not just a one-way street where you say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. You're like, you know, like I don't like my ears touched, which I didn't learn until I started being a cuddlist, and somebody was just like fondling my ears, and I was like, gosh, that's really unpleasant. So now I just tell everybody, hey, I don't like my ears touched. Um, and then that's a nice thing for saying, are there any places that you don't like touched?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, most people haven't explored it enough to really know. But every once in a while,
Yeah.
I had somebody who say they've got really ticklish feet, so please don't touch their feet. I was like, great, it's good to
Um,
know. I probably wouldn't touch your feet unless you asked for it anyway, but it was good to know.
yeah. So what about during a session? Did you like what I wrote?
Right. So during a session, I still would like a little bit more information, and I'll actually pull up the document. There's some specific things that need to be in there, but one of the things I'd like you to think about is you say, the way the session will go is that we will lie down on the bed and I will cuddle you in any way you like that respects the cuddlist boundaries and rules. I do not want you starting it with, the way the session will go is that we will lie down on the bed. It's all about empowering your client for
Okay.
what
How
they
do
want.
you, or what would you, how would you like to begin? Something like
Yeah,
that?
how would you like to begin? I'll often ask my client about their body position. Do you want to stand up? Do you want to lie down on the mat? Do you want to lie down on the day bed? Do you want to sit up? Right? How does your body want to be right now?
Okay.
Don't worry about where you want me. And then once you're there, once the client is there, it's like, okay, where do you want me? Do you want, is this distance good? Do you want me closer? They almost always say, come closer. How about right here? And so that seems, some of the transitions into cuddling can be fairly awkward, like, may I touch your hand? And kind of asking every step of the way, asking the client where they want to put their body, and then how close do they want your body? Do they know where they want you to be?
Okay. So I don't necessarily say we're going to lie in the bed.
Nope.
Mhm.
Particularly, I don't know what population you're going to work with, but one, there might be people that you're not ready to lie down on the bed right away. And there may be people that aren't ready to lie down on the bed either. It triggers something for them, or their fantasy has been sitting up next to somebody, and they're like, oh, we're going to lie down. I'm not going to get to sit up, right?
Yeah, you could sit on the couch and cuddle if that's what they want.
Yeah, exactly. So just giving them, where would you like to be? How close would you like me to be?
Yeah,
That's,
I like that.
thanks. It makes me not have to think very much, right? And I really like not thinking very much and letting my client do the work.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really like, feel free to talk with me and share any feelings you might have or anything you would like to talk about, like letting them know that you're open and happy to listen. At the end of 1 hour, I will ask you to share how the session was for you, and I will share any moments that stood out for me. Sure, I might change that to just like, at the end of our agreed time, right? You could put an hour, hour and a half to whatever it is that you've agreed to. At the end of our time, um, we'll we'll transition. I've got the timer set, something like that. But we'll talk about how the session was for you and how it was for me, and help us transition.
Okay.
Just something a little bit more generic there.
Yeah.
And then let me open up. Madeline's got some things that she wants to make sure are in there. So let me find those really quickly, because I think there are probably some things that we should add. So the other thing is that during a session, and empowering yourself and your clients really go together. Oh, you must have in there the you agree not to do anything you're uncomfortable with, and you get a verbal yes from the client as a direct question that they agree to let you know if they're uncomfortable. So that has to be in there as a direct thing.
Where
And
in
then,
which section?
pardon?
In which part?
During a session.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then give some examples of how you'll help them do that, because people can agree, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. But then do something like acknowledge it isn't easy, play a no game where you say, I'm going to ask you for something and just say no to me. Doesn't really matter whether you want to do it or not, right? We're just playing this game to practice. Um,
Yeah.
give some
Okay.
examples of things that might be uncomfortable. Your arm's falling asleep. You know, it's not like a terrible, horrible thing. It's just, I'm uncomfortable. I'd like to move. Right? So it's this time to really emphasize for them, there's no wrong way to do it. We want you to be comfortable. Go for what you want. Go for your desire. I'll
Okay.
often say something like, we've all been trained to endure and tolerate touch we don't want and didn't ask for. And so that might be the default. This is a time to practice something new. This is a time to practice asking for what you
Uh-huh.
want, getting
Well, I
touched in
don't
what you
know
really
how
want.
much men have been.
They have been trained.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have been.
To receive unwanted touch.
Yep.
I think of it more as a woman thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's good to notice that bias and to be curious about your clients. But yeah, most of the men that I work with have received unwanted touch. Some of it from the women they've been with, some of it from their parents, some of it from, well, everybody's received unwanted touch from parents, right? This is kind
Yeah.
of a Betty Martin thing that's really good to notice. It's like, and most of it was, and all of us have received unwanted touch before we were verbal. So it's very deeply in our bodies to go along with touch we don't want and didn't ask for. Diaper changes, toothbrushings, being pulled out of the way of cars, being spanked, you know, or even if we didn't have parents that were spanking parents.
So this is a chance to be touched the way you
This
would
is,
want
yeah,
to
this is
be.
a chance to really notice the way you want to be touched. It's pretty amazing. And so that transition that you put in your script for during a session is really about helping them notice how amazing this container of this Cuddlist session is. It's really cool. It's really different.
Oh, this is helping me so much.
Oh, good.
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 Empowering your clients. Is that what we're on now?
We're still on during a session, but during a session and empowering yourself and your clients works together. Wait, there's a message from Jessica here. Let me find this. Okay. So she says she'll call in 5 minutes and I'll just tell her, okay. All right. So back to where we were with you. Oh, goodness. Can I just go back to that page? It was right there. Will it come back? All right. I have to
You
find it
know,
again.
what I want to ask you, I know a few weeks ago I did the whole, test or whatever you call it, but is there a manual I could print out, like to refer to?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by doing the whole test.
That, answering all the questions and everything.
Right. This, you have to go back into that and add these answers that we're saying now. If you want, because your hand is really not working well, I can cut and paste in these answers into your Ruzuku, but they need to go into the Ruzuku so that Madeline has access to them when she does your finalization call.
Yeah, I need to just know how to access Ruzuku again. Where was that?
Yeah, we can find that link again, but that was in your original welcome email from
That was
Michelle.
from Madeline?
Pardon?
Was it the email from me or Madeline?
From Michelle.
Oh, Michelle.
Yeah. Hey, Jessica, that's you calling in?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I am so sorry.
That's okay.
I
So it's
apologize.
all right. So it's me and Tina here, and we've been going through some stuff, but I've also recorded the call, so you can go back and look at what we've seen, look at what we've talked about thus far, if you
Okay.
want to.
I'll
And
probably
Great. I
stop
really
around
appreciate it.
7 because I'm having some people over. But anyway, you were saying, like, if I want to print out the manual, I have to go back into the original document that Michelle sent.
I don't, as far as I know, there isn't a printable manual for all of this. If you want like all of the answers, yeah, you'll need to figure out some way to do that. Hey, Jessica, can you mute yourself for right now? I think I've started to get a little feedback since you came in.
Yes, I apologize. I'm in the car.
No worries. I could probably do that too, actually. Wait, I just did that. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I'd like to have something to look at.
sure. And you can certainly ask Adam for that. You can, email Adam. But
Yeah.
what I would say in lieu of any answer he has is you could just go back into the Ruzuku and print it out page by page. If he comes up with a better answer than that, will you let me know?
I will.
Great. So then going on to your empowering yourself and your clients. Yeah, I want to acknowledge you for choosing to be cuddled. It's a great way to release endorphins and oxytocin, which are hormones that increase our sense of well-being. It's also a great way to feel close to another person. There's no wrong way to cuddle. If any cuddling doesn't feel good, let me know and I will do the same. You are the expert here. Please guide me to what feels good for you. Great, that's a good start. there are a lot of times that clients will say things like, well, I don't know, you're the expert. What should we do? How should we start? So going along with the things that you've already said in during a session about, maybe you played a little game with them about saying no. You can also, let's see, ask them, besides saying, you're the expert here, how would you like to be touched right now? I mean, that's a great question. If they say, I don't know, you could use the hypothetical, like, what might you want? If you knew, what would it be? Some people say, what's a way that you cuddled in the past that you really enjoyed? I like to help my clients get into their bodies right now, but that whole, how have you liked to be touched in the past is a perfectly valid prompt. If they say, hey, please guide me and help me out, I will often say something like, would you like to sit closer to each other? Would you like to hold hands? I'll still really keep it in a, would you like, do you want this? I won't say something like, is it okay if is it okay if I sit closer to you? That puts people back in their enduring and tolerating touch they didn't want and didn't ask for, right? Is it okay? Can you stand it if I sit closer to you? Isn't what we're wanting to ask. We're going to ask, what do you want? What would feel really good to you? How would you like to be touched? So sometimes I'll play a distance game where we stand on opposite sides of a room and they ask me to come closer or stop or move back. That's a really good assessment tool and moving into cuddling, especially if somebody's like, I really don't know. I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm getting into. That's a time that I'll do more of the no exercise games, the distance across the room games.
Okay.
But mostly just adding a little bit more on the, how would you help them notice what they want? What are some other words you could do to help them notice? Madeline will like to see that. So then your answers are definitely more on target this time than the first time I looked through.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you've helped me a lot.
Great. I am so glad.
I have done a lot of cuddle parties, over 10 years of cuddle parties, but this is different.
Yeah, it is. And it's a neat kind of difference. So I'm really glad you're exploring it. And it's been nice to talk with you. It's much more fun to talk with you than to email.
I know. And how long have you been doing it?
I got certified about a year ago. So it's relatively new for me too, but it's a young business. So
I'm going to look for Michelle's welcome email and see if I can get back into the Ruzuku and I can paste these answers in, you say?
yes. Just go back into your answers and yeah.
And then she'll assign me a practice partner to.
Well, so then, okay, the next step once you've gone through these is to, you could certainly do practice sessions and that would be wonderful. So Jessica, this is really good for you to hear too. Doing practice sessions with people before you do your final approval session is a really good idea. And I suggest you do your practice sessions in two ways. One, where you're the cuddlist and you bring in people, hopefully that you don't know terribly well, to practice with, and you go through your whole introduction to cuddling and helping empower them. And just see how it feels and see what you learn about it, because writing something on paper is so different from doing it in person. The other kind of practice session I suggest you do is that at least once you hire a cuddlist. You actually pay them the $80 an hour. Have you done that? Great. Great. So, right, if you haven't done that already, it's a good thing to do. And because then you get to see how somebody else really does this, somebody who's doing it professionally.
Right. Okay. Well, hopefully I'm going to find Michelle's email.
Okay. But then yes, your step for doing an approval session is that you get a cuddlist who's been approved to do that. And if you know who you want to work with, let me know. It's great if it's somebody that you don't know that well, so that there can be a little bit of that new person energy.
Do I have to pay them or?
Yep. So you sign up to be their client and you have a conversation with them, and I'll send you an email that explains this too, but you have a conversation with them where you set up all the boundaries and parameters, how long you're going to do it, how much time you're going to be role playing you as the cuddlist, how much time they're going to be giving you feedback. You set up all of that, and then you start role playing. They'll reach out with a new cuddle request to you with the kind of information that you would get from a new person, and you'll reach back to them to set up your screening conversation. And then you'll actually do the session with them, at least a half hour where you are being the cuddlist when you're in person with each other.
Okay, well, send me everything you think I might need.
Okay, I will
Um,
send you those things, and yeah, just go ahead and read through it carefully, and then let me know if you've got questions.
Yeah, with the
And
arm in the sling, I don't think I'm going to be cuddling anyone for the next few weeks.
possibly not. Depends on how sensitive your arm is, right? You could just let them know.
Yeah, I
I've got
can
my arm in a
only
sling.
use the right arm. Left arm's in a cast.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
probably not wanting to do it until then. But yep, I'll send you the information on the approval session.
Thank you
After
so
the
much.
approval session, as long as you've gotten all 4s or 5s, the next step, and the checklist for what people are going to be looking for will be included in the email I'll send you. But assuming you get all 4s and 5s, then you'll do a finalization call with Madeline, and then you could be certified to get on the site. So those are
So
the next 2 hoops to jump through: approval
this,
session and call with Madeline.
this was not an approval session.
This was not an approval session. This was just a mentoring, helping clear you up on what's
Okay,
going on in your training.
and so I'll do an approval session with Madeline.
No, you'll do your finalization call with Madeline. You'll do your approval session in person with someone who is in your area.
I got it. And
Great.
then finalization. Okay, I'm writing it all down. All right, well, send me everything and I'll look it over and I'll try to find the original email to get back into Rudoku.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much, Cassandra.
You're
Great talking
welcome.
to you.
Bye, Prudence.
Bye.
All right, Jessica, are you still in the car? And can you focus on this? Any questions or things you've got?
Yes, yes. And I so apologize. I had a doctor's appointment that ran over way longer than I anticipated to.
Yep.
Never just got to spend over an hour with you.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, I was reading through your answers in Ruzuku, and what you've done looks really good so far. Looks like you've got a good grasp on kind of the behind the scenes, like the underlying intent of the questions and the underlying intent of your answers. Feel really good to me. There's one section, one section called during a session that you haven't filled out yet. That's a key part of the training for you to move on to the next step. And it's your script of transition. Somebody shows up at your door, you show up at their door. How do you go from that initial moment of showing up to the moments of being into full-on cuddling?
Yes, in fact, I've read through that section, and I know that's the part where I'm going to have to sit and put some serious thought into. So I haven't put any pen to paper yet, but definitely been something I'm thinking about, and probably this weekend I will tackle that.
Great. And there are lots of other, right? Part of the fun thing about having the Ruzuku training is that you can read through other people's answers and see what you like, possibly just as importantly, see what you don't like, and take from there, right? You don't have to create it all from scratch, but
Right. I have to say, and I was on the network call last night with Madeline, and I was telling her that training has been so impactful for me, and just helping me to understand my own boundaries, and it's really been an awesome experience. And even if I were to stop right now, I already feel like I've way got my money's worth, which is not what I intend on doing, but it's just really been such a great experience for me.
Excellent. And it was that for me too, and I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh, this is just this relatively inexpensive training. Wait, it's actually impacting me and feeling like a really good thing to do. Yeah,
in so many ways. I've been sharing so much of it with, my friends, and I just think to myself, I wish I could package this and hand it to my niece, who's, just about to be 18 years old. I'm like, she needs to read this before she gets into these big relationships.
absolutely. And even if she has no intention of being a cuddlist, I think it would be totally fine, give it to her as a present only if she really wants it, but, have her do the training, and she can get feedback from, the same kind of feedback you're getting and everything as she goes through, and she can get to do it. So,
but yeah, that's a great idea. It's something I could even give.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It's and it just opens that world of, oh, she could actually do this. This could be the fact that cuddling can be a really legitimate way to intimately connect with someone, that it's not just a precursor or a post to sex, is kind of mind-bending for a lot of people. So I'd love it if your niece got that too.
And it's so far out of the, what we understand cuddling to be in our culture. And actually, I think it was your podcast that I was listening to, and you mentioned something about, what a great place to have your heart broken. And
Yes.
It's so true. It's really just so much that I haven't been exposed to in, my years of relationships. That's really, I just wish everybody could experience it. And the more cuddlists there are, the more people that will. So.
Exactly. So I'm glad you're going to be joining us. And I don't say this to everybody, I really feel like you're going to be an asset to the Cuddlist community and the brand and the getting it out there more as like, here's this really cool consensual touch model. And I'm glad you're coming on board.
Yeah, definitely. And I especially I'm pretty active in like the patient advocacy world and doing a lot on the clinical side of things. I'm a nurse, so I think about a lot of stuff from the scientific and the clinical standpoint. So I feel like I'm hopefully will be able to, connect some of those dots. And I've spoken to Adam about, bringing it into the hospitals, the nursing homes, the hospices, and especially the veterans hospitals, which is another area that holds against my heart. So I'm really hopeful for for it to gain the respect that it deserves.
And I would love to talk to you about that more too. There are some others of us that are also really passionate about the like PTSD and trauma and chronic pain implications for cuddling sessions. I'm having good success with my clients right now. It's all anecdotal, nothing's, blind studies or anything. I'm just getting feedback from my clients, but it's lovely. And I'm like, whoa, this is powerful. This isn't just like, hey, come be held and have fun for an hour. This is like, whoa, it can change your life. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, and working at the bedside, we have so much anecdotal information, proof that, you give a patient a back rub and they're going to love you forever, and not just because, you made them feel good, but because of all the other good stuff that goes along with it. So.
Yeah, it creates trust and bonding and all this good stuff. But I'm curious, while we're here on the call together, what would be most useful for you? I've got probably 10 more minutes.
Okay, great. So I think a few things that have come to my mind, and I don't necessarily want to repeat anything that you may have gone over for the sake of the recording, but from a business standpoint, I know there are other Cuddlist in New Jersey, so I do know that it's somewhat accepted. But as far as like insurance and getting, your business established, can you just run through kind of the steps that you had to go through, if there were any hurdles in the process?
Sure. And first off, I will say, again, this is my own anecdotal, take it or leave it. It's definitely not business advice from Cuddlist, right? So I'll give that little disclaimer so they're more protected. But as far as insurance, I don't know of anybody that insures Cuddlists. Some folks just are kind of putting it in, assuming that it'll go in under their massage insurance. I have coaching insurance, and since I say I'm cuddling and coaching, and I'm doing touch-based coaching, I'm just putting it in under my coaching insurance. I don't expect that I'm going to get, sued by anybody. That's just my assumption, and that's part of where the screening and all the intro stuff is so important. But sometimes, right, that stuff is important for renting space or working in certain communities, right? They want to say, hey, do you have liability insurance? So you might check it out from a coaching standpoint. That's the way that I found.
Yeah, I think about it because as a nurse, there's some fine lines that you can't cross when it comes to, touching a patient. And this wouldn't be touching a patient as far as, in the clinical sense. So I'm going to have to figure out how to navigate that. But,
yeah, and I think it's something that as we get more established as a practice, insurance will come, but that might be the 5 to 10 year plan. So immediately, I'm not sure, and I'd love to hear how you navigate it. There's another nurse coming on board, Steph K. So if you see her in the training, you two might connect with each other. And because she's got some questions that are sort of similar. She's wondering, she sent me a question about the Colorado Board of Health or something like that. I'm like, I don't know. I've never even thought about the Colorado Board of Health. I'm in Colorado too. I assume they could care less what I'm doing. I'm not serving food, so why would they care? No.
Right.
Okay.
Is your home base, or do you have
yes, I cuddle out of my home. I have a dedicated cuddling room, but yep, I cuddle out of my home.
And did you have to do anything like through your town as far as getting a business license?
If I did, I didn't do it.
Okay.
So if I needed to do that, I'm ignorant of the fact. I did get a business license for doing Airbnb, but I didn't for seeing clients.
Oh, all right. No worries. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure all that stuff out, and I'd prefer to fly under the radar if I could.
So far, that's fine. I mean, I think if I was making $1 million out of clients in my home, the city might start to notice, but at this point, I don't know why they'd even care.
Speaking of which, what is like a reasonable client volume for you?
So for me, what I'm wanting is 8 to 12 clients a week. 8 to 10 feels like a really nice sweet spot where, hey, my expenses are taken care of and I have the time that I want for my family and other interests. I have not consistently gotten to that yet. I also really only do and promote my business very part-time. So that's just, I've chosen to live a lifestyle that gives me a lot of freedom to do other things, and making money doesn't have to be as high of a priority. You've actually been used to like a salary. I've been self-employed for 18 years, so I'm used to like just figuring it out and not needing much money. But you've actually had like a real salary and benefits and stuff. So I say don't drop that anytime soon. Build your clienting practice on the side and make sure you're really ready to make the leap into doing that full time if that's what you want to do before you do it. Because otherwise you might be like big cold water shock.
Yeah. That's kind of my short-term plan, is to definitely do both for a period of time, along with some other stuff. I'm hoping to get out of corporate America, but slowly but surely.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. Get out of corporate America, yay. But make sure you do it in a way that feels sustainable to you, because otherwise it's like you jump in and then you recoil back because it's too much of a shock. And frankly, you're a woman and you're attractive, so it will be easier for you to build a client base, because cuddling is still something that most of my clients are still coming as men that have at least some sense of attraction to me. They're thinking of it in some way as a replacement for a partner of some sort. I'd love to get out of that model and have it really be seen more therapeutically, but at this point, it seems true that it will be easier to build your business because you are an attractive, female-appearing human.
Thank you. Which actually kind of dovetails nicely into another question, which is not something I'm necessarily thinking of doing, but is there, or have you heard of anyone? I'm single at this point. I'm on dating sites. Does anybody advertise in a sense on dating sites? I know that's totally muddying the water, but
yeah, I haven't. The closest I've come is that on Craigslist, I tried posting in the personals once, and all of my ads got flagged and deleted within an hour. And the client inquiries I got that might have been directly related to that were very not ideal clients. They were people that were looking for some sort of sexual service. Even though my ads were clearly, like I did a women for women ad and said, I really want to practice with women. I'm happy to give a first session. Whoever responds first, I'll give you the session for free, and I'll do it half off for others. Like, I thought it was a nice ad that wasn't abusing the personals. It still got flagged and taken down.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't know. If you have good luck with it, let us know. But at this point, the place that I get people is Craigslist therapeutic services. Lots of misogyny in there.
Okay, so that's kind of your number one marketing.
Pretty much, it's I was going to say it's my only marketing tool. The other thing is I host group cuddling events, and I have gotten some people from that because that's something that I really value, is creating. For me, it was important to create a space where people could get quality touch and learn these skills of consent without having to pay $80 an hour, because not everybody has $80 an hour to spend, and a lot of the people who don't are the people I really want to reach.
Right, and that's definitely something that I'm interested in as well. I think that would be phase 2, would be the cuddle party facilitation. Just because I feel like the workshop in that moment, and meeting multiple people and having to say no to lots of different people is really. I went to my first cuddle party about 2 weeks ago, and that was really profound for me.
I read your response just now, and yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like you were like, whoa. And I'm like, yay, I'm so glad you were like, whoa, because we need more cuddle party facilitators too. And I hear that's a really good training. So yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Okay.
And I want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to hold
Thanks.
you over. I know you said 7 more minutes.
Yeah. So I think you're right on track, and I'm glad that you're showing up in the marketing calls. That's a great place. I'm going to co-host the marketing call next week. It's right before Thanksgiving. Don't know if you're available, but if you want to jump on, it'd be lovely to see you on Wednesday too, or hear you at least.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I will plan to be there.
Awesome. I will put this recording somewhere where you and Prudence can both access it. Probably just in
Great.
Google Drive right now, and I'll send you a link.
Okay, perfect. And
Great.
I'm sure
Oh no, I'll just put it on.
will...
I'll put it on YouTube, but leave it unlisted, I think, and send you a link to the. I think I'll just do it that way. Yeah. Nobody said anything terribly personal, so it seems all right to me.
Right.
Okay.
All
Great.
right.
Well, lovely to meet
Thank you.
and I look forward to having you as a peer and having you on the site. But I will also send you that stuff about the approval session so that you know what the next step is.
Great. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to talking to you again.
You're so welcome. Good night.
Thanks. Good night.